In today's episode, we talk about the craziness that was Thursday night football. We think about mid-season firings, and of course, you get your Week 10 knee-jerk reactions and Week 11 waivers. Roll the music. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Rugby with Pads. I'm your host Sam and I'm here to take you through the Week 10 knee-jerk reactions. I know we're not quite finished yet, but we're pretty much there. We've got the Rams who are definitely going to win tonight. I've definitely just cursed us. And we're going to be looking a little bit later at Week 11 waiver opportunities for you. Let's start off with what happened this last week. And we start with Thursday night, which for Amazon having such a bad track record of getting terrible games, they get Thursday night football, 35-34, Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals. Absolutely amazing game. Thursday night is killing it, has done for the last couple of weeks now. I'm just having a look at my stats here. I've got my notes written down. Some takeaways from that game. Jamar and Burrow is a connection that will go down in history. No Higgins, no problem. That game gave the total top three scores for the entirety of the week in one game. We had two top three wide receivers. We obviously had Chase, number one, with 60 odd points, and I don't remember his name. Tylen Wallace, who I think was a fourth year breakout. Anyway, first time we've seen him getting out of there fantastically. We had Bateman at number 11 as well, just missing out on that as well. Two of the top three tight ends. We had Mark Andrews coming in at number 2 and Tanner Hudson at number 3. We had the number 3 running back with Chase Brown. You thought I was going to say Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was out the top 10 this week, and the two top quarterbacks this week. Amazing game. Go back and watch it. Lamar is now 10-1, 10-1, against the Cincinnati Bengals in his career. He owns the NFC North currently, unless Mike Tomlin has something to say about that. We'll see. Wide receivers, it's their turn to be bizarre this week. Not the tight ends, not anyone else. It's the wide receivers' turn to be a bit wonky. Yeah, you had some crazy ones. Aside from Chase, who was really good, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, the forgotten man, who I didn't even know he was on the Saints rosters. 2 TDs for 109 yards on 3 targets. Bonkers caught all 3 of those. Ridley appearing out of nowhere. The commentator said, if in doubt, throw it to Ridley. That has never been the case during his tenure there in Tennessee, but it worked out this week with 2 touchdowns. Pickens, just doing Pickens things, like so crazy. I think the addition of Williams on the other side with that beautiful moon ball worked really well for him, and Pickens is doing some crazy catches. I think he makes catches look hard and easy at the same time. It's crazy. Anyway, fantastic game from him. Obviously, we talked about Wallace on a broken play, and Sutton, is he the go-to guy once more in Denver? He's been in the league sneaky long. I think this is maybe his 5th or 6th season, but he looked great. Obviously, you had Vele and Mims doing some numbers as well, but the red zone target was definitely Sutton, and he got off free on a beautiful long ball, which looked like a bit of broken play. But again, Bo Nix, I think, is doing really well there. The reason I say it's a bizarre game, because those are all good things. Those are all good things that can happen. Good things happen all the time. But your classic guys didn't do well. Justin Jefferson, Wilson, Adams, Lamb, Zay, Lad McConkey, DJ Moore, Devontae Smith, and Brian Thomas, all considered number ones realistically in their, or number ones all kind of on the fringes and ones in their systems, all less than 10 points in PPR. What the hell? We had some crazy names in the top 10. Go back and look at the scoring this week. You'll be surprised that someone just crops up, and not to mention Quentin Johnson has burst that myth, scored another touchdown. He's got hands once more. So who knew that? At running backs, we often talk about the fact that old guys and guys who are cast aside don't get another chance. They are getting another chance. This week was the week of the Hasbeens making a difference at RB, and this could work for you in the long term, and we'll talk about that in your waivers considerations a little bit later as well. You had Chuba Hubbard, who obviously I think everyone was saying, Jonathan Brooks is coming in, gets given a big contract this week, RB2 on the week in a rubbish game. Chase Brown, who again has just been on the peripheries for so long, finally coming out number 3 this week. Eckler gets an opportunity with Brian Robinson out. RB6 this week with 2 touchdowns, and Hunt off the street a couple of weeks ago. Kareem Hunt goes RB8 in PPR this week. All of them, bar none, all of those we talked about, overshadowed the return of the 101, the consensus number 101 at the start of the season, CMC this week, and I think that speaks volumes to the type of play we're getting at running back. And continuing on with that theme, you're getting a lot of hard running back tandems. Now, obviously we want a bell cow back, but do we really? And I say that because the bell cow backs are more likely to get injured and open up the opportunity for the next guy up. And unless the next guy up is really quite good, it's very difficult to maintain that level of production. We don't really see that happen that often. But if we look at the kind of pairings we've got here, Jonathan Taylor and Tyler Goodson, 25 points between them. Najee and Warren getting, I think 24 points between them. Gibbs and Montgomery, again, 25 points between them. These are all great as well. Obviously, led the one that stood out to me here is straddling the kind of 7 and 8. I think it was the 7 and 9 spot here. Bucky Irving and Rashad White, 37 points between them. That's great. I think this is a changing of the guard, and it's a bit of an interesting one in terms of fantasy because your bell cow back outside of Saquon, who only scored 8 points this week. And the exception this week, I think, was Bijan Robinson, 29 points. And James Conner, going to say, he is a has-been. So he should have been in my last set of notes there. But scoring about 20 points again this week with some really hard running. It's very rare you get to keep someone for the whole season. If they're that hard running, they're going to be injured at some point. Saquon has already been injured at this point. Bijan Robinson has had up and down games because you get seen through. And it's, some teams play with a next man up mentality, some teams play with a load balancing mentality, and the load balancing mentality is really working. You're getting solid production out of both guys, and sometimes that's all you want. Yeah, you want the really high peaks, but very difficult to trade for that. Whereas you can get really high peaks from random players running on the wide receivers as well. So it's worth having a think about how you construct your rosters overall, and whether you want to have the risk of potentially a workhorse back, failing to reach that potential, or do you want, in fact, a committee back who is going to have his weeks regardless, but more than often is going to share the touches and generally have a good play because when he comes on, he's going to be more impactful. And that's definitely something that I think we've seen the evolution from the Detroit Lions, and that's expanded out to the rest of the league. And my fifth, and I'm going to go 5A and 5B on this point, are injuries make an impact. And are injuries also going to lead to firings? And I'll tease that at the start. First, let's look at the negative. Yeah, injuries do make an impact. Dak not being there, it made it look like Mick McCarthy was a dead man walking. It really did. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a midweek firing from him. But all of the Cowboys suffered for that. CeeDee Lamb, 8.4 points. It was like 13 yards. I saw one stat, it was 13 yards on 4 targets at one point. That was terrible. Cooper Rush is not your guy. Go with Trey Lance and just see what happens. The Bears O-line being practically all out meant all of the skilled players were dead. And the same with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence really made everyone suffer. Yes, he wasn't doing great, but Mac Jones is not the replacement you want. But I do think, as always, and this is from a fantasy perspective, we don't want that for real football. We don't like seeing injuries leading to sackings, which is probably going to happen at some point for Mick McCarthy. I think his the rope has run out a little bit on and his noose is a bit tighter. Leash, I don't know. Interpret that how you will. But Matt Eberflus, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him by Tuesday, because that was terrible performance, and that is management of a regime over a number of weeks. Very disappointing, but injuries can lead to really great opportunities, and this is really important for you down the stretch. So keep an eye on these. Yes, you may bemoan the fact that there's an injury, but every window is a door window, open opportunity, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, let's go through them. Olave, big ups for Carr, MVS. all people, and Kamara as well. Sanders and Brooks being out and questionable means that Chuba Hubbard has an RB2 week. Great to see that. He's a great hard worker. Didn't realise he was Canadian. I think I saw a bit of a preview on that in the previous show. Either way, we won't hold that against him. Higgins being out means that Chase just is a target monster. We love that as well. Nico Collins being out means we saw the return of John Mechie III. I think he had really bad illness at one point. I'm going to fact check that and get back to you. But yeah, had a great game in the loss against the Lions last night. We have a fair few guys here. Pittman being out with a dodgy back, I think he's load managing himself, if I'm being honest. Maybe I'm just putting it out there. But Alec Pierce and Josh Downs having great games in the loss as well against the Buffalo Bills. By the way, get running backs against the Bills. I'll talk about that in a bit. Very obvious pick there. All of the Chiefs players not really able to decide what was happening. Gives opportunity to Hunt. Again, all of these guys are people you could pick up. Aside from Kamara, I think all of these guys you could pick up in late rounds or off your waivers as well. Brian Robinson, we've already talked about Eckler getting 2 touchdowns this week, and Evans and Godwin, the Tampa Bay running game. Bucky Irving went undrafted this year. Rashad White was in the kind of middle rounds. Again, these are cheap opportunities that if you'd held, you're looking good, and this is what we've got to think about now going down the stretch. Now, this is going to be my thought of the day, I guess, and I'm just freestyling this a little bit. We're week 9 now. You've probably worked out where you are. If you are 9-0, 8-1, 7-2, you're probably sitting pretty. And I would be looking towards the playoffs. So look towards your week 15, 16, 17 matchups and make sure you have plus side matchups. That's what you're looking towards. There is a really great calculator that I use that works really well on NFL app, less so on ESPN, and fantastically on Sleeper, because Sleeper is the app of choice. Yeah, I'm shilling for it, I guess, but you want a piece of that if you can. But it gives you your playoff odds based on your position and looks at the whole team. And even if you pay a $5, which I'm going to do, and I'm going to use it as a demonstration on the next episode, I think it's a really good cause. The guy there, I'm going to link it all in the bottom here. You can get routes to win, so you need to know exactly what happens. All the scenarios. There's a Monte Carlo what's it called? Simulation. Fantastic. But you're going to want to think about that if you are 7-2 or above going into this week. And obviously, are we week 9 or week 10? I think it was week 10 this week, wasn't it? Yes, it was week 10. So if you're 8, let's say if you're 8-2 or above, you're sitting pretty. If you're 7-3, you're probably sitting on the bubble. 6-4, you've got to consider what's happening in the next 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks can make or break your season. A 6-6 season could leave you on a knife edge. An 8-6 is probably going to get you through to the end game. So have a think about what you're looking to do there. If you're going down the route of 8-4, sorry, not 6-6, 8-6. Can't do our maths. I think if you're in that kind of top group, you want to be able to understand where you are by week 12, because then you can be master of your destiny. If you're getting below that, I still don't think it's worthwhile giving up, though. There's still a lot to play for, because for every team who is sitting comfortably in that kind of second tier, that 7 wins to 6 wins, you've got guys who are going to fall out and who are going to be complacent, and you've got guys who can come up. You might well be sitting on a 4-5 roster, a 5-5 roster, because you've had CMC on your bench. If you're that person, you are going to be in for a great long ride. So just make sure you have enough and you don't leverage just a single player that you might have. You still need to make sure you've got a balanced team and look for the edge and the opportunities. If you're in the position where you are 5 wins and below, take a risk on dropping a player who you thought was going to be consistent. I dropped Nick Chubb. I thought he was going to be great when he came back. He has not been a shadow of himself, so I've dropped him. I'm making an opportunity, and I might be wrong, but I'm really hoping I'm not. And I'm going after players like Tyron Tracy, who I think, is, despite having a game-losing fumble in overtime this week, has played so fantastically and is a bit of a game changer. And I think is going to be a mainstay of that Giants team, who love to run the ball as well, providing Brian Dable stays in office. Who else am I looking at? I've looked at Alex Pearce can be a difference maker week on week. Cade Otton, I think, is got a great chance to be fantastic down the stretch. If someone's dropped a player who's been injured for a long time, like a Mike Evans, you should definitely be picking up and taking a risk on those kind of players. There are so many opportunities out there to get players who can make a difference and who can have spike weeks. We've talked about so many different random spike week players, and you've just got to take a chance in your offering. Don't be conservative. Go for the risk, because if you have 4, 5, 3 wins currently, you're not going to win it by being comfortably into the playoffs by week 12. You're going to have to scrape, beg, borrow, steal, and make those risks. So make those risks now. And that's why we are going to talk waivers in a second. I'll give you a quick break and I'll be right back. So looking at your waivers, there are some obvious people that I think you should definitely pick up if they're not in there, because how these guys are not 100% already is beyond me, and I can kind of see why in some reason. A.K.A. versus Philadelphia, I think, is a good buy there. He is being seen as their goal down back while Brian Robinson is out. Obviously, if Brian Robinson is back, lessens his value, but don't take that risk. Injuries can happen all the time and they can reoccur, especially amongst running backs. He is available in 20% of leagues, so 1 in 5 of your friends are stupid. No, joking. Equally, Hunt versus Buffalo. I talked about getting a running back versus Buffalo. You want Hunt. He's the most effective running back in the league at the moment. You just know he's going to go for 3.5 yards every time. He is someone that you definitely want. Let's get a bit weird with it. Bucky Irving, he's 70% rostered at the moment, so 30% available. So again, a third of your friends, don't know what they're talking about, or you don't, one of the two. But he is available as well, and I think if you're looking at those tandems, he is consistently scored alongside Rashad White and is primed for an opportunity, especially in that kind of first down running game. He's got some explosive runs available to him as well. One of my pickups of the week would be Pierce or Downs versus the Jets for the Indianapolis Colts. Alec Pierce is he's only 16% rostered, which is almost exactly the opposite of Downs. So if you're going to go for anyone, availability wise, go for Alec Pierce. He scored 18 points this week, similar to Downs, who is 82% rostered at the moment, only 18% available. There is a decent chance you won't be able to get him, but if someone's dropped him because of buys, etc. JSN is a great opportunity if DK continues to be out, and that might happen as well. Other injury news as well. A.K.A. in relief of Aaron Jones. We talked about the bell cow back versus committee back. I'd be favouring the committee. Look at A.K.A. as getting a bit more playtime as they maybe try and nurse Jones' health into the playoffs, because he is a very effective back, but they need someone to run at the wall instead of him sometime, and he is injury prone by the looks of it as well. He felt like he was going to go out that game 3 times this week. Sutton and Vele versus Atlanta. Similar production, 83% rostered for Sutton, so 70% of the league. So 1 in 5, you stand a chance. Vele, on the other hand, similar impact, 0.4% rostered. You have a 99.5% chance of getting him. Go after him. Derek Carr, despite us taking the mickey out of him under interim leadership, he is being a berserker. 25 points this week. He is available in 88% of leagues, so I would be going after him. And one of my pickups that I think you should definitely be looking at is Tyler Goodson. I spoke about it a little bit. Jonathan Taylor is running really well, fantastic, but he has got injury history, so mind out for that if you are looking for an edge giver and or a handcuff even. That sounded very weird on both those terms, but if you're looking to someone to give you an edge, Tyler Goodson for the Colts is one that I would be looking at, and I'd see him getting more play. He is, I think, taking over the secondary role from Sermon, but he's still very much a 3-headed monster, just with everything sounds weird in my head, but Jonathan, I'm going to blame him on the lack of sleep. Jonathan Taylor being the lead, and the other two guys coming in there. Obviously, you're looking to replace a few guys at the moment. You're not really looking to replace anyone but Tyrone Tracy on the New York Giants. He's going to be out on a bye this week. Arizona, you're missing out a lot of guys. You need a tight end to replace Trey McBride. I would look no further than Tanner Hudson, who is currently not rostered anywhere on 12-person ESPN leagues. Is against Chargers, who don't score great, to be wary. They're very much a bend, not break defense, so they do let off a lot of yards. They are very good in the red zone, very good at takeaways, but he is currently completely free and available. So if you're looking at someone to replace Trey McBride in a pinch, and you've probably only got one tight end if you've got Trey McBride, look no further than Tanner Hudson, and look for Joe Burrow to go on the berserk down the stretch. Tampa Bay aren't available this week, so you're looking for a replacement as well. So this is where you might be able to pick up Bucky Irving as part of a raise drop consideration as well. So look for players who are getting drops as well. And Carolina is out, so you're looking to replace Chuba Hubbard as well. But also look if he's available. He's a no-name player. Realistically, you might be able to pick him up on the cheap. And my defensive pick this week goes to the Green Bay Packers defense against the Bears. I think despite Aaron Rodgers not being there, Packers still own the Bears, and long may that continue. And the the aforementioned O-line, which is going to cost Eberflus's job, is so porous. So you are going to have a field day there. And that, my friends, is your lot. That was your 5 takes, a bit of thought, a bit of waivers. We had a bit of a longer episode today, but hopefully you enjoyed it. If you really enjoy this, we are planning some cool things going into next season with charities. So keep an eye on the website for that, www.rugbywithpads.com. Follow us on all the socials at rugbywithpads.com. When I say us, it's me. If you like this, subscribe, favourite, share, all of that kind of stuff. Really appreciate you listening. And if you want to support the pod, you can go to the website, rugbywithpads.com. Membership for as little as £1 a month or £10 for the year. And you can get 10% off all the merch, including hats to represent your favourite franchise team, just like I'm wearing now for the Stevenage Stags as well. Much to my wife's ire. She hates his hats, but I love it. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I will hopefully see you. Well, you'll hear from me later on this week, hopefully, providing work-life balance is mixed. But either way, I will see you all very soon on the Virtual Gridiron.